Oh,
Sima, you can hear me, everybody? Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming, and thank you, Sima. And I'm sorry I'm late, but we had some sort of technical glitch, so I arrived 20 minutes late. I'm happy to see some friends and a large turnout, and I think it's a good... Can you hear me?
Yes.
yeah.
I think we're getting some feedback. I don't know if people can mute themselves. Daphne or El Shaddai, could you mute everybody, and then we'll open it for Q&A?
Yep, I'm going ahead and muting everybody. Please keep
Okay,
yourself
thanks.
muted until Q&A portion.
Thank you. And I'll try to be brief and speak for about up to 15 minutes at the most, and then open up for Q&A. And I'm sure you have questions for Sima's important contribution to this. So I think in a way, I'm going to take a little bit of a step back from the technical kinetic reality on the ground and speak to some issues that are relevant to those of us who are concerned about not only fighting anti-Semitism, but basically fighting for democratic principles and human rights for all people. And in a sense, I'm sure everybody here, regardless of your background, your political orientation, your country of origin, that we all believe in democracy. We all believe that everybody has the right to be equal under one legal system, regardless of income, race, religion, creed, that we all should be equal in a democratic society under one law. And that what's at stake is totalitarian, anti-democratic, set aside the anti-Semitism, sexist, homophobic, an ideology that's not capable of accepting difference, of accepting the other. And this is what the Jewish people have been facing and continue to face, and it's coming to a head. I would like to say to the Jewish people on the call, and I know that there are people who are not Jewish who are committed to the struggle against anti-Semitism and other forms of inhumanity, but to the Jewish people, I have a message for us, for you. Israel and Zionism was the answer of our people to being treated as non-humans in Christian Europe and in the Muslim Middle East. And that we decided as a people to return to our homeland, and to resurrect the land, to resurrect our language and our culture, and in our sense of who we are as a people. For a Jew to be free, we have to be free spiritually, but we also have to be connected to the land. That's how Jews are free. And for a generation, particularly among the educated Western Jewish people, and myself included, we have been apologizing for ourselves in intellectual conversations and political conversations and in social settings for a generation. And we've been trying to convince our scholarly, educated colleagues and friends and neighbors that we're not bad people, and that Israel is a democracy, and we care about human rights. And you know the conversation, we've all experienced it. Sometimes we're accepted, sometimes we're accepted temporarily, and often we are marginalized. What we have to remember, ladies and gentlemen, is what happened in the last 72 hours. What Sima was referring to. Scenes and images that tragically is not an exaggeration, is reminiscent of the Holocaust. People being butchered and mutilated and raped and then mutilated, paraded, ridiculed. This in our time, in 2023, is taking place. And what is more revolting is that our educated colleagues and comrades at our finest universities, in our finest media of record, are beginning to, or they will turn on us again. And we have to understand that they're going to turn on us again because not that we are bad or wrong, but that anti-Semitism is deeply rooted in Western Christian society. And it's time for us to stop apologizing, and it's time for us to understand what we're up against. The fact that, for example, and the examples are too numerous to get into, and I only have a short period of time and I want to try to open it up, but feminist intellectuals at Oxford, at American universities, are defending the actions of Hamas's shock troops and explaining that they are oppressed, so they're doing these things. Feminists, women, are defending the actions of people being raped and butchered. And they're doing it because of anti-Semitism. For many decades, Israel and Jewish peoplehood and Zionists have been dehumanized. Just imagine very simply, we were exterminated not too long ago, historically, just a moment ago, because we were created, socially constructed as being a member of a race that was poisoning the purity of the white Aryan race, and we had to be eliminated. In less than a generation and a half, the discourse at some of the best universities in the world, among the best professors and scholars and media journalists of record, are now claiming that the Jews are white and we are apartheid supporters. So if we were white, racist apartheid supporters, what you do to the enemy, I guess at some level is justified. But this is anti-Semitism. The Western Christian society perceived Jewish people as blinded by evil because we didn't accept the truth of the Christian Messiah. So we were going to hell, we believed in evil, and we were hindering the redemption of the world. So we had to be converted, driven out, or exterminated. When the shift moved to race and biology and nation, we know this culminates in the Holocaust. The Jews had to be eliminated to save the purity of the white Aryan race. And today, ladies and gentlemen, the children, the grandchildren, the great-grandchildren of the perpetrators of hatred against Jews are now saying that we are white apartheid supporters and we don't have a right to exist. And even the actions, the inhumane, brutal, I don't have the words to explain what happened. And I'm incapable of explaining it accurately. But even that is justified. So, to our friends and to the Jewish people, we have to be united. We have to be strong. We have to remember that Jewish people, when we're united and strong, we could do anything like create the state of Israel and make it into a space of high technology and medical research and intercultural, multicultural, vibrant music and food and culture, and make it into one of the strongest economies on the planet. That's when Jewish people work together, we can do miracles. But when we stop respecting the differences among us, this one's too secular, this one's too religious, this one is Mizrahi, this one is Ashkenazi, it's insane. We have to respect our differences and come together. We have no choice. And if we do respect each other, there's no limit in what we can achieve. This is a message that we can control. The anti-Semites and fighting them or trying to convince them, that's another struggle. But if we're strong and united as a people, and we must be, obviously, within Israel and outside of Israel, we have to be at one, especially in the months to come. If we are united, there's nothing that we cannot do. And then to take a step back, to understand what's taken place. In our work at ISGAP, we have followed the money. We've looked at funding from Qatar and from Saudi Arabia and other Muslim Brotherhood-inspired entities that have been pumping billions and billions and billions of dollars for decades into the best universities in the West. And I submit to you the fact that the intellectuals now are anti-Israel, and I'll say anti-Semitic, anti-Semitic, anti-Semitic. There's no going back. If they can't speak out about the brutality of the last hours, then they're just anti-Semitic. And if they cannot speak out for women and for democracy, if they can't speak for the women in Gaza and the women in Iran and the women who can't go to school in Afghanistan, this is the result of a miseducation in which the Muslim Brotherhood has been pumping billions of dollars into Western universities, and the leaders of the universities have been willfully taking it, knowing where it's come from. And in some instances, they take it illegally. And it's this miseducation, taking money from brutal, anti-democratic, anti-Semitic, sexist, homophobic thugs who don't respect the diversity in the Islamic world. Moderate Muslims are their enemies. And for Western universities to take this is resulting in a misguided, anti-democratic forces taking hold in the West. And as Elie Wiesel always used to teach us, anti-Semitism is not a Jewish parochial Israeli problem. Because once this hate is unleashed, it knows no boundaries. It destroys basic humanity. It destroys our institutions of democracy. And once it's unleashed, it knows no boundaries, and we're beginning to witness its unleashing. That we can't even think to protect the lives of Jewish people, of women, of gay people. We can't even think of what it means to be a democratic country, teaching students how to be good democratic students. And this damage should alarm all of us. And that we as a community, and you know, thank God you guys are here, and it's wonderful to, I see some of your faces, and it's wonderful to see, but we have to double down our efforts. We have to defend the Jewish people in Israel, the only democracy in that part of the world. And we should never apologize for who we are, ever. And we've been apologizing for too long. We have, just think, who are we apologizing to for being who we are, for being Jewish in our land that everybody knows is our land. You pick up a New Testament, you pick up a Quran, you pick up a history book, you know where we're from, and we should never apologize for it. So we have to be strong. We should never apologize anymore. And we should use our intellect and our knowledge and just hammer away at the lies and never apologize for it. And at ISGAP, we have amazing people. We have online resources. We have a strong community. There's some wonderful things that are being done now in the United States and Canada and Europe and certainly in Israel. And the message is we have to stand together and be active and don't apologize anymore. And let's fight together and let's help each other. We'll have more meetings, we'll have more discussions. Let's be creative. Let's stand with our brothers and sisters in Israel. And let's, it's going to be an intense few weeks, but let's all help each other. Let's work together and let's fight the fight. So I'll end it there. And we can take some questions. Sima made amazing and important points. If you have questions for Sima or me or comments, please feel free. So I see Jeffrey Kapala, which I don't have. First time I'm meeting you, so the floor is yours if you have a comment or question.
Oh, sorry. I'll just go ahead and change the muting setting. That's my bad.
Okay, cool. I think you're open now, Jeffrey, for a comment.
Yeah.
They closed you.
Oh, there we go. Thanks. Thank you again for your presentation, Doc. I had two quick questions. Well, a question, observation, and a question for General Sima, if I could, as one soldier to another. I know that Hamas has kidnapped a lot of Israeli civilians, and they're using them as human shields, quite obviously, as per their kind of stated doctrine of trying to turn any tactical kinetic victory into a soft power failure by saying, oh, look at all the civilians that, the IDF killed, which I mean, it's obviously nonsense, right? That said, I'm wondering, I deal with a lot of revolutionary technologies and deal with things like force transformation. One of the things we looked at was autonomous weapon systems and weaponized swarms. And to that end, there was a very particular Israeli company, Elbit, who actually developed a autonomous weaponized swarm system. It's called Lannis, which actually is able to operate independent with no man on top of the loop in a mountain environment to take out hostile targets and minimize collateral damage. Where is the IDF in deploying such technology, and what can people do to help expedite that deployment? The other quick point is a lot of my buddies doing open source measurement-based intelligence assessment is showing that a portion of the equipment that is being used by Hamas is actually of Russian origin. And so keeping that observation in mind, what does the boots on the ground say with regards to the involvement of foreign fighters, whether it's Hezbollah, Houthis, or say more, private military contracting companies like Wagner that are aligned with Putin's criminalized counterintelligence state?
Both questions are for me, I guess.
Yeah.
I'll start with the second one because this is easy. I have no current information regarding this. I haven't seen any indication that this is the case right now. I wouldn't be surprised if there are people in Gaza Strip who cooperate with Hamas terrorists and Islamic Jihad, but I can't relate to that simply because I don't have any specifics. As for the first question, here I would be careful not to go into tactical details, which I do know. So I'll go back with your permission. And as someone who used to be a person who masters targeting in the Israeli Air Force, this is actually my main focus was for many years. And, making sure that there will be no collateral damage was the main thing that the Israeli Air Force worked on. And as a soldier, you probably know how much we have put into that. So you do it with a few elements. It starts with the decision-making. Every time you see people who are not involved, you're not given the okay to do something. That's easy. You do it also with the choose of the weapon that you use, making sure that they will not inflict any collateral damage. You also do it by using doctrines and tactics that allows you to minimize the collateral damage. And the fourth one is that you actually invent new things that can do that without any interference with decision-making processes, making sure that it will be swifter, faster, and more accurate. The only thing I can say about that is that Israel has the leading technology when it comes to swarms, and this is what Jeffrey is talking about, meaning that there are different elements that can actually work together and do their own managing of the battlefield with minimum man in the loop. But this is, Jeffrey, this is the most I can say. But we are definitely leaders in this field. And Elbit is, of course, one of it.
Thank you, Jeffrey and Sima. Christine, a brief question, please. We don't have so much time.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay. I just wanted to make a comment to try to see how going forward in certain areas we could kind and see how we coalesce together. One of the things that strikes me from the media side of things in the United States is that every time I turn on the news, I either see a banner, the first banner I ever saw said Israel attacks Hamas, not the other way around. The second thing is that every single major outlet only refers to Hamas as militants, right? So disinformation just in the headlines, let alone what they go on and say afterwards. So perhaps we could, as a group, look at how we can create certain teams who focus, because it's just so enormous and all areas need attention. But I'm just saying that's one that I particularly upsets me because I see it every moment as soon as I look at the news.
So, yeah, it's an important point, but I think it goes back to the point that I made and the work that we're doing at ISGAP that goes much deeper than a 5-minute presentation.
Yes.
But I think we have to stop being apologizing and explaining to these producers or journalists that that Hamas is nothing but a genocidal, anti-Semitic movement funded by Qatar, which is the Muslim Brotherhood, and from a military perspective, it's run by the Revolutionary Guard of Iran. And if the United States of America and the journalists in the United States and in Europe want to support this, want to give billions of dollars in aid and not, and turn a blind eye to what's going on in American universities and American institutions, then so be it. But they're anti-Semitic. They're aiding and abetting a reactionary social movement. I'm not speaking about Muslims. I'm not speaking about Islam. I'm speaking about political Islam that's taken European anti-Semitism, genocidal anti-Semitism, and fused it with a reactionary form of political social movement that acts in the name of Islam. And if the American government wants to aid and abet the Brotherhood and Qatar and Iran, they're aiding and abetting anti-Semites. They're aiding and abetting genocidal anti-Semites. They're aiding and abetting a movement that's anti-American, anti-democratic. And I think that's it. We have to speak the truth to power.
Could I make a suggestion here?
Go ahead, Sherry. Nice to see you.
Hi there. Hi, everyone. Good to be here. So I'm very involved in New Zealand with a small team of advocates who we're dealing with the media constantly and having to constantly push back on the lies that come through. Yesterday, I did an interview and I found it was really helpful what I'd learned in Oxford, and I was able to use some of that material. We have a problem of ignorance here, and the media knows nothing. Even our politicians know nothing. I saw politicians on the news not sure whether Iran was behind this or not, and this is sort of basic information. One way that I think ISGAP could be really helpful is, as you did yesterday, Charles, is publishing that statement. When statements come from a group like ISGAP, I can use it. I can say, ISGAP, this authoritative place says this. And if ISGAP can put out statements on these, if we can pinpoint some of the main talking points that we get in the media all the time that we have to respond to, and we can say, ISGAP says this, and ISGAP is this body of scholars and experts. I think that would be really helpful as a weapon that we can use as advocates here.
So it's a great idea. So Sherry, we have about 60 odd research fellows, and maybe what you're saying, actually not maybe, what you're saying is very important, and we should, I think, organize the fellows, the graduates of Oxford, the summer programs. We've had 9 programs and hundreds of professors have passed through. And yeah, we have a wonderful network. I think we need to activate it. And if you want to help me, if you do it, it would be wonderful. And
Yeah, absolutely.
El Shaddai and Daphne are on the call. They're wonderful, administrators and leaders of ISGAP. If they can help organize the scholars, and I agree, we can send out statements as scholars, and individuals as research fellows at ISGAP could use our platform in any way that empowers them. So Daphne and El Shaddai, please get in touch with Sherry, and it's a very important idea.
Sounds good. We'll
Thank
be
you.
reaching out, Sherry. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay,
Boris wants to say something.
hang on. I think there was Ellen Masters and then Emmanuel. I see.
No, I was just agreeing and saying thank you. It was a
Okay.
great idea.
Good.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm agreeing too. I'm agreeing too.
Hi, Doris.
Absolutely. I'm here in Toronto, and this is this is a problem. I'm sure it's going on in the United States too. Pro-Hamas demonstrations, rallies. We found out about it Thursday at Nathan Phillips Square downtown, the City Hall in Toronto. So quickly, we mobilized a letter writing campaign, whatever connections we had to local politicians, one in particular that had a direct pipeline to Olivia Chow, the new mayor. And I heard just an hour ago that she even though she's not sympathetic to us at all, she's left, Olivia Chow, she canceled the protest. What I'm asking is, that's happening also in Mississauga, places around Canada. I'm sure if it's happening here, or New York City, it's going on right now, I think, a rally for them. Any ideas of how to charge them with supporting terrorism, since Hamas is a designated terrorist entity by the Canadian government, I'm sure American too as well. Any suggestions that we can not just say ain't it awful and cancel, but charge them?
Look, it's a very good point, and I am sad to say, being born and raised in Canada, there were rallies in Montreal and Toronto where the pogrom was being celebrated, and we call it a pogrom, which is repugnant. And I know that in Canada and in Italy, these are only two examples that I know, that in Italy, the people who are protesting in favor of the pogrom are going to be charged on hate crimes. And yeah, it's a very important point. So our legal people on this call should be taking note.
Well, that gave me the idea to start working on it legally. So I guess you're in the same boat. You don't have legal recourse, but you do have something like lawfare, and that's where I'm going to start. And also meeting with a politician who's sympathetic. If I get a strategy, then I'll report back to you, Charles, and you can, hopefully we can do something to knock them out legally.
We have experts on Hamas and the Brotherhood, but we're not legal scholars. But we're here to help, to supply professional experts if you need them. Okay, very brief. Emmanuel Rund, you're still muted.
Charles, we also have questions on the Q&A.
Yeah. Emmanuel.
Okay, here I am. Thank you again for putting it together. And I'm a case of person who lived through anti-Semitism, first the Arabic anti-Semitism, being born in Jerusalem 1946 and being shot at and bombed at from the age of 2 years, but later on answering by serving the IDF, fighting back the 6 Days War. And but then that was Tkuma, creation of Israel. But then later, as a filmmaker and a speaker, doing public diplomacy on the issue of the Shoah and making 30 films about it, I went to Germany to give it back to them. So I'm all the time on the line between all the time anti-Semitism, of course, but fighting back in the Middle East. And then,
sorry, Emmanuel, we don't have much time. Could you please ask your question to me or Sima or your comment?
No, just that I wanted to say that anybody would like to use somebody with such a case, I'll be glad to help doing public diplomacy in the USA and Europe and fighting. And after 3 days now on TV here in Jerusalem, watching what's going on and doing what I can do. And again, fighting anti-Semitism around the world. So thank you for the stage.
Thank you, Emmanuel. We have Hannibal, then Joanne, and then I see Sandra. Hannibal.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello. Everyone hear me?
We hear you. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. Before I get even say what I wanted to say, I just wanted to extend all of my condolences to everyone here, to all our Jewish people, Jewish people who has friends in Israel that are in Israel now. My deepest condolences. I don't have the words either to describe the horror that I feel. I just wanted to basically just really quickly point out some of the things that Charles had spoken about early on, and that is I really can't think of any other group in the history of the world that has always stood for democracy and democratic values to the extent that the Jewish people have, and that's something that I don't really say lightly. As an African American, the Jewish people has been the ones who always stood right by us. Right there with Dr. Martin Luther King, and so many others. And so building institutions, the NAACP. I teach at Fisk University, and the Jewish people has been very, very instrumental in not only helping that institution, but ensuring that it didn't close in the face of so much white supremacy and the like. And like as I mentioned, I just want you all to know that the African American community, we definitely stand with you. I'll be working with Charles very closely to see what we can do to put some of those things into concrete action. I like the idea of putting out statements from ISGAP. I think that's really important. I just typed up a memorandum that will be going out to our community on behalf of the African American Studies program here at Fisk University, expressing our horror, regret, and condemning the attacks by Hamas and Iran, and the whole gamut. So that's what I wanted to say, and I will hopefully we'll be following up with everyone soon.
Well, thank you for your comments, and thank you for all the work you're doing for human decency. And it's exciting to I know we're gonna be partnering with you and your colleagues at Fisk. We really hope, and I'm sure with creativity we can do really impactful work on issues of anti-Semitism and racism. So
Absolutely.
really thank you. It means a lot that you're there. Thank you. Okay.
Joanne.
Thanks. Yeah, Joan.
You're muted, Joan.
Muted. Sorry, please unmute Joan.
Okay, sorry, here I am.
Muted.
Yeah, I will be brief. I just wanted to reiterate again, for people living in Canada and the United States, and I don't know about Britain, but you should get on the mailing list of Honest Reporting if you aren't already there. For the media, they track the media, and they've been fairly successful at getting apologies and retractions, and they'll let you know what's going on. The other thing, I posted a link to an article that appeared in The Atlantic a few years ago by Matty Friedman, who originally of Toronto. He was at one point I believe, with the AP Bureau in Israel, and he will tell you, he outlines what happens with the media reporting from Israel. And that'll be helpful too in terms of knowing what you can address and what is a little more difficult to address. And then just the third thing, because I am in Toronto also, Doris, just be aware that when the opposition have these rallies, that they take legal advice. They know exactly what to say and what to do if they are arrested. It makes it a little bit difficult. But there is a rally tonight in Mel Lastman Square in favor of Israel. If you can go, you should. And I do believe our mayor, Olivia Chow, and I'm not a supporter of her either, but I believe that she is planning to be there and to speak. Thanks, Charles.
Thank you, Joan. Thank you, Sandra.
Yeah.
Thank you. Hi, Charles. First, I'd like to ask you a question. In your presentation, I think perhaps would it be possible to start including the impact of the critical race theory, K through 12. I work on that in the textbooks. I work on it, not in it. I work on it in the textbooks, and that is a major source of teaching of the anti-Semitism of the worst nature. It also will answer the question about the white privilege, the Jews being the separation of the Ashkenazi from the Sephardic being listed as people of color, the whites, Ashkenazi being part of the white privilege. I think that we can't, if we want to attack, and this is where we have to do this, attack anti-Semitism, we have to go from K through 12, because that is where it's being taught, and that's critical. And I would like to ask Hannibal, if he wouldn't mind, I would like to work with you on another aspect of my textbook work, which is on the problems of how the Black Americans and previously African Americans, and the division that is established in K through 12 textbooks between the American Jewish population and the Black American Jewish population, and the negation of Martin Luther King and the negation of the civil rights movement. I think that's something I would like to if you would be willing, that we could perhaps work on. And the third question, which is a question, you mentioned here, I think, I don't remember exactly whether it came from, and I don't want to call you Sima because I don't know you has a title but I'll call you Sima because I didn't get your title. The question of Qatar funding. I've been handed over now to examine and work on the critical Zionist studies curriculum in the United States. They're forming a consortium, and I was given something to pursue, which is Qatari money in funding the university chair for that. And that is probably the most, if we're in a battle for survival with Hamas today, and I live in Jerusalem, so I know exactly what you're saying, we are going to be in the death throes in the United States if we add the critical, because the word critical is critical race theory, it's the critical ethnic studies from California. And then if we're going to go into critical Zionist studies, we are going to be facing probably the worst enemy because it's intellectual. We know how to fight if we watch what Israel can do, but we don't know how to fight what has come out of academia. And so I would like to know if anyone hears or sees, or Charles or anyone, I need any links that people have past a sentence which I found concerning Qatari, because New York University dropped its name out of it was between Columbia and NYU. Columbia is considering becoming the center for critical Zionist studies. And so anybody who can take pity on what I need to know, I'd be really happy.
So Sandra, it would be wonderful to speak with you offline.
Okay.
So maybe Daphne, are you with us, Daphne? Al-Shadei?
No, Daphne's here.
Yep.
Okay, if you could exchange contact information with Sandra, it'd be great.
Yep, sounds good.
Thank you. Professor Usher.
Thank you. I am so deeply moved by your overview of Jewish history and the nexus of of Western Christianity. Of course, as a survivor of the Holocaust of Greek Jewry, I'm keenly aware that of what happens there as well. And I was gratified to see that Greece was one of the early supporters of Israel. I am also congratulating you for that statement on the pogrom, the connecting the pogrom of what is happening in the Gaza, in Israel, actually, by Hamas. And to this end, I immediately contacted. I have contacts in the Archdiocese of New York and America, and demanded to have a statement from His Eminence Elpidophorus. And I was assured that he would be reacting. I said 48 hours is a little bit too late, but it would be welcome. The other aspect that I see in your presentations is the fact that in spite of the division in Israeli society over the misguided plan to reform the judiciary system, the wonderful officers responded immediately and joined their units to fight for Eretz Yisrael. This is wonderful. I wonder whether this could be a prelude to to shelving this program permanently and forming a unity government. Is there any talk about that for the long run?
Sima?
Yes, there are talks. It's actually more than talks. We are probably going to get into a unity government with Gantz and Eisenkot, who are two chief of staff who can actually help Bibi make the right decision, because his cabinet is young and they're not professional. So that's going on right now. listen, for us Israelis, there was no question that if something happens, everyone will be recruited. The issue is that, and this is something that has been said by the chief of staff, by the head of the Shabak, by actually everyone, that in this neighborhood that we live in, you cannot be perceived as weak. And what happens in the last 10 months is that Israel lost its deterrence because of inner dispute. People from Hezbollah and Hamas and others thought that we are weak. We are inner dispute will make us not able to respond in a good way. And by the way, we haven't in the beginning, but we are now doing this. And they used it. They used it as a leverage point to do what they are doing right now. And this is something that is totally, and this is my view, okay? I'm not representing ISGAP. I'm saying what I feel as an Israeli, as an ex-brigadier general, and as someone who deals with anti-Semitism and with security issues for many, many years. What the government of Israel has been doing to Israel in the last 10 months with this overall judicial reform or I don't know, whatever you choose to call it, and bringing us to this point is something that history will judge them.
Thank you, Sima. Are there any other comments or questions? Aaron, I see you're putting up your hand. Aaron, go ahead.
Okay. Charles, I just want to say thank you. And for all of us, the last few days have been, I can't even have a word to describe it, but just thank you for your work, sir. And for everybody that's involved with ISGAP. It's a very needed organization, and I'm just, so honored to be a part of it. So just thank you for your work, Charles.
Thank you for your work. Nice to see you, Aaron. Yeah, I think together we could have a bit of an impact. So let's stick together the next days and weeks, and let's do some good work together. So good to see you, Aaron. Thank you for your kind words. And I see Saad. I'm gonna unmute you. I can't
unmute. Can you hear me?
Yes, Saad, go ahead. But it sounds you're muted. Hold on.
I'm Palestinian.
Saad, go ahead. Yeah, I think you're unmuted now.
Okay. I'm Palestinian on my father's side, but I'm Jewish on my mother's side. I'm the only Palestinian Holocaust fellow. I'm accredited by Yad Vashem. My father was the Palestinian leader back in the 60s. He had a very, very difficult time. He was the person who proposed the original two-state solution, holding talks with Israeli opposition leaders. I've never doubted the Holocaust. I have never doubted the right of Israel to exist. And years ago, I went into a very deep discussion with my father as to why he thought that Israel should continue to exist. And he gave me a sentence, and that is that Israel is a state of necessity. He obviously knew I was Jewish on my mother's side. I'm the son by his first marriage. I spent much of my life working in the UK. I'm a senior UK educator. And now that I've retired, I spend a lot of my time trying to convince young people that Israel should exist, but that Palestinians have to reconcile themselves, not go down the path of militancy, of extremism, of doing what they have done this last weekend. Personally, I think it's a moral disgrace. But that's my own personal opinion. But I am prepared to put my hand up. And thank you I really appreciated your statement that came through to my email address. And please don't think that all Palestinians are necessarily extremists.
Of course. So thank you for being here, Saad, and nice to meet you electronically, and hopefully we can stay in touch.
Yes.
I appreciate your comments, and of course, you know, I think clearly Iran, Hamas, the Brotherhood are oppressing Muslims more than anybody else. And we work with Muslim intellectuals and activists who are opposed to,
yes,
you know, this reactionary form of
yes,
politics that are speaking in the name of
yes.
Islam. So.
Yes. Well, I've been publicly working with Trudy Gold. I was the guest of Jewish Book Week this year, and also on Lockdown University, Trudy and I did a podcast where we would discuss the Holocaust as two Holocaust fellows. But, you know, I am prepared to stand up publicly and acknowledge both what has happened, but acknowledge that Palestinians are wrong if they follow that route of militancy. We are people. We need to be morally strong together.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you. And if you can send us a note through El Shaddai, yes, or Daphne, or to our info@isgap.org, it would be nice to stay in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. It's appreciated. And I see we're running out of time. So Ionis, nice to see you. The floor is yours for the last comment.
No, you're mute. Okay.
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 You're
Hi,
good.
everyone from Greece. Just a very thank you for this meeting, Charles. I have a very brief question to Sima. I would like to ask her if there is a place right now in Israel that considered to be safe for people living in Israel, like South Israel is considered to be safe. I mean, this is I'm curious about that because I have friends living there. Thank you.
Okay. So I don't want to distress you, but the answer is no. When you have a country that you can cross north to south in less than 5 hours and east to west in less than 20 minutes, then no one is safe when you are dealing with two entities that has long-range missiles and that have the capability to penetrate Israel's border and harm you. So even I live in the midst of Israel, really right in the middle, in Caesarea. But I'm in one of the most targeted places because there's a power plant. The main power plant of Israel is right next by. So I'm in the middle, and I'll probably, when something happens, if something happened one time, then we will probably be targeted both from south, right, and Iran. So that would be fun. So no, there's no safe place. But I think one needs to understand the DNA of Israelis because we feel that whatever happens, maybe it's part of being a necessary thing. Maybe it's part of how we grew up in Israel here. You don't go on a daily basis fearing what might happen because otherwise you would have left Israel. So you live here, you do what you have to do to survive. When there are high intensity conflicts like right now, you do that. When you have low intensity conflicts, which we have all the time, you do that. When we have on a monthly basis, here are the number, almost 300 terror acts on monthly basis, 250 of them are very high level terror activities, which are stopped by our intelligence operations. So when you live in this neighborhood, you tend to be a little bit more numb and simply survive. So there is no safe place in Israel, but this is the best and the safest place for Jews around the world.
Thank you very much, and thank you.
Thank you.
I hope all being safe and sound.
Thank you. Good to see you. And it's nice to see everybody. So, you know, apropos, El Shaddai and Daphne just sent out a notice tomorrow morning. The scholars are meeting, I believe, at 10 a.m. New York time. So you can get kind of organized as a group that, as Sherry recommended. And everybody, you know, stay in contact. ISGAP is a platform for scholars and experts. You know, I invite you to use the platform to empower your work. And, you know, we have to, let's stay in touch and let's work together, because the next days and weeks ahead are going to be quite serious. So stay strong and no more apologizing, and speak truth to power. And thank you for taking the time to be here. And stay safe for you and your loved ones.
Thanks.
Thank you, Sima.
Thanks, Josh.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Take
Thank you,
care.
everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.